What is up, everybody? This is Ky'veza back again with a quick guide for the Ky'veza challenge delve on question mark difficulty. I did this as a BM hunter, which in hindsight I don't think was the best option. I tried both of the other two specs, and each spec has its pros and cons, but I do think once you weigh them all together, BM is the hardest, and I'll go a little bit more in depth later when it comes to spec choice. When it comes to your gear, no matter which hunter spec that you're playing, you just want to get the most single target damage that you can, while also picking up versatility wherever you can without losing too much damage. So good options for versatility is use a Verse Flask instead of the Alchemical Chaos. Swap out the fiber that you have in your Reshi wraps to the versatility fiber. And then if you do have equal item level gear that does have versatility on it, I would swap that over. It goes a really long way to keep both yourself and your pet alive. One last thing to touch on when it comes to gear is what belt choice you want to use. I used Static Charge, one, because it gives versatility, which is, in this situation, good damage and a little bit of survivability, but also because as a BM hunter, you are actually not going to be tanking the boss very much yourself, and so the other options, such as Cauterizing Bolts, which I'm not sure if it's bugged or what, but it was absolutely terrible when I tried it. But if you are not going to use the versatility option in your belt, I would definitely go with the shield. Again, it loses a lot of value when your pet is taking most of the damage. Your pet does not get the shield. So I think best option is just the verse here for max damage and a little bit of survivability. When it comes to the talents that I chose, I've got them displayed on screen right here. They are pretty much just the max single target damage options, with one change here. I did swap out my point from Serpentine Rhythm to Aspect of the Beast. I lost a little over 1% damage for that, or at least sim damage for that. And the reason that I did that is because my pet was dying permanently. And whether you're using the Tenacity pet or the Leech pet, the extra stam or healing is going to help your pet to stay alive at least a little bit longer. And then two really important talent choices that you need to have if you're going to do this on BM is you need to have the misdirect talent, and then this right here, no hard feelings. Whenever you misdirect, your pet is going to take 50% less damage for 5 seconds. Without this, your pet is going to die pretty consistently on the fight. So make sure that you get this talent at the very least. Whether you want to swap to Aspect of the Beast is much less important. All right, now getting into the encounter itself, there are 4 main mechanics that are going to happen on a set pattern. The one that you're seeing right now are the daggers, and then there is also a mechanic called Nether Rift, which is coming out right here. Another mechanic that does happen pretty consistently is the massacre or dashes, and then once at the end of each phase as a sort of intermission, there's going to be a 3-card Monty kind of game, which is called Invoke the Shadows. So the mechanic that's happening right now is the massacres, and the way that happens is the boss spawns 6 shadows at set intervals, and then those shadows start dashing, and you can see which one is going to dash next because it's going to have a red line. The way that you do that mechanic is you have to keep track as they're spawning, and then you have to face them before they start their dash. If you're not facing the shadow that's going to dash next, that has that red line coming out of it before it starts dashing, you're going to get one shot. So you can see here, there's a red line I face, red line I face, red line I face, and I just keep on doing that. The easiest part of that mechanic is the last 3, and the hardest part about that mechanic is keeping track of which one spawns when, and then making sure that you're facing them in the correct order, because there is not a lot of leeway, and there's not a lot of time between these dashes happening. So for me, something that really helped out when it comes to doing the massacres was actually counting out loud as the massacres were spawning, and you can see which one is spawning because it's going to have a big blue animation as it's spawning. So as it spawns, I'm not worrying about DPS. Honestly, for most of this fight, you're not worrying too much about DPS. The boss will die eventually. Just, you know, your DPS rotation should be at least a little bit muscle memory. So just do the best that you can while focusing on mechanics. But getting back to massacres, the way I do it is right here. I'm not worrying about damage. I'm just seeing, okay, 1, 2, 3 is behind me. So 1, 2, I turn around, 3, and then you keep on going. Something that really helps when you're a BM hunter doing massacres is pulling yourself away from the boss, right? Your pet is tanking the boss, And so if your pet is in the middle of the room, you want to stand out to the outside. And then if you are going to move your pet with your pet command to get your pet off to the side, you want to stand in the middle. The main reason that you want to do that is because the massacres can spawn inside of the boss or inside of Bran or inside of all of your pets, and then they are really hard to see. And if you don't spread yourself away from all that clutter on your screen, you're going to have a lot of wipes that you can avoid by just moving, right? When it comes to massacre, that's about all I have to say. This one right here is the 3-card Monty kind of game. The goal of this, which happens once per phase, is to just keep track of the real shadow. So you could see the correct shadow because it's going to be the last one to spawn in, and it's going to say something above its head, you know, which one is real. And then all you have to do there is focus on keeping track as they dash around. It's really important to use your pet move ability to get your pets away, because if you have your pets and all your beasts standing directly on top of the shadows, you're not going to see anything. Another thing that can really help some people is if you just focus on a set point on the screen while they're dashing around. Like, you know, Bran stands right in the middle. If you just look at Bran, your brain will kind of keep track on its own as far as which one is the correct shadow. That one's going to be just preference, right? Our brains are all wired a little bit differently. If it helps you to actually just focus in, not blink, you know, just stare at the right one as it dashes around, do that, right? We just want consistency, but it's just a tip that a lot of people might not think about, which is, you know, just having a set spot that you fixate on, and then making sure that your brain does the work kind of passively, right? So as you've seen, as I've been explaining some of the mechanics, my pet has already died twice. The absolute hardest part about this fight for BM is the fact that if we tank the boss, we are going to die. We don't have enough self-sustain to keep ourselves alive, even with Bran's healing pots. And there's pet death number 3. And if, you know, our pet tanks, which is our only real option, you have to do a really good job to keep your pet alive. A couple of tips that I have when it comes to keeping your pet alive is making sure that you have 100% uptime on your mend pet, which is kind of a given, right? But also, if you see these potions that are coming out, you want to spread out when you pick these up. Each time you pick one of these up, it gives you a hot for 11 seconds. And then what you want to do is you want to delay picking up the next ones to get those to stack up while also increasing the uptime on your hot. Like right now, I did a really bad job. I only got one of the potions, so my pet was taking a lot more damage than I needed to. Ideally, what you're doing is you're picking one up like right there, and then you wait a few seconds, you pick up another. You wait ideally closer to like 8 seconds like I am here, and then you pick up another. And you can see the hot is refreshing, and then you have maximum uptime on that, and it's going to help keep your pet alive. Obviously, there is a whole lot going on in this fight, and if you just focus on, you know, doing the potions perfectly and staggering them perfectly, you're going to be messing up the other mechanics, right? It's not the highest priority, but you do want to do your best to at least make sure that you pick up all the potions and do your best to spread them out as much as you can, right? But like right here, if I'm trying to pick up potions while doing the dashes, I'm going to fail. If there are daggers coming out, like right now, and you're trying to pick up potions, again, you're going to fail. You're going to die. So here you can see the 3-card Monty, and you can see that I move my pet off to the side right there. What I do is I stand behind the real one. I fixate on Bran in the middle, and then I just track as it's dashing around. And there it is. Right before clicking it, I'm going to put amend pet, and then I'm also going to misdirect my pet. Since our pet doesn't have any frenzy stacks, it's not doing very much damage, it's not benefiting much from its leech. And also, since we don't have any brand potions when the phase first starts, it doesn't have much healing, right? So it's really important to have amend before the boss is active, and then also use that misdirect, like I mentioned at the start of the video, in order to get 50% damage reduction on your pet, okay? As far as the daggers go, you know, it's just dodge. There isn't much of a tip that I can give you, except do your best to move to open space when you see it. If you have 2 options to dodge, and one gives you a big wide area to dodge into, and one gives you 2 yards to work with, if the next dagger spawns and it, you know, takes up those 2 yards that you moved into instead of going for the big open area, you're probably going to die, okay? It's as simple as that. So as you can see, the fight, at least as far as the pattern goes, is very simple, right? It's going to repeat on a set pattern. And so what we can do with that is we can have a set pattern for our defensives. And when we do that, we want to make sure that we have certain defensives set aside, but we also want to make sure that we have options for kind of an O-ship button, right? The way that I decided to do that was to have turtle be my O-ship button in case I need to res my pet while stuff is happening, like right here. Thankfully it died just as the phase started. But for me, I do the first Nether Rift without anything. I just exil. The second Nether Rift of each phase, I use my survival of the fittest. And then that's going to be it. There's intermission. And then, you know, first one of the next phase, exil. Second one of the next phase, survival of the fittest. As far as your survival outside of getting one shot goes, the only thing that you really need to worry about is this mechanic right here. It hurts a lot. So you can see right as it's about to start, it's the first one of the phase. So I'm just waiting until I'm about 70% HP. I use my exil. And then we keep on going. And then the next one, I'm going to use my survival of the fittest. If you do not have any brand potions during that suck, you might need to use a health potion to stay alive when it's one of the exil sets, or later in the fight when she's doing more damage. Which right now you can see she has 5 stacks. She gains a stack every time she does an intermission to do 5% more damage. And then for me, I saved turtle every single time. You cannot turtle to save yourself from the massacre. You can turtle to save yourself from the daggers, but you know, in this attempt, which was honestly a pretty good run for me, my pet still died like 4 or 5 times. And if your pet dies while these massacres are going off or while daggers are going off, you need to make sure that you keep your turtle available to get that res. And you can see right here, I barely finished the fight before that last 3-card Monty. Yeah, it was actually less than 2 seconds away, and then I would have had to do another. But again, the fight just repeats. I mentioned at the start that BM is all about keeping your pet alive, and you don't have to worry too much about damage. That is somewhat true. However, you are on a bit of a timer because, like I said, you can't keep your pet alive, and there comes a point when, like, if the boss had 1 more stack, I doubt I would have been able to keep my pet alive just through the white swings in this next phase. So you definitely want to kill the boss before like 10 minutes. Right here, it took me 8.5 minutes. That was already kind of pushing it. You know, I could have turtled to res my pet like 1 more time, but if your damage is not right around that 2 million DPS mark, you're probably not going to be able to do this in the first couple of weeks. As you get more gear, as time goes on, it'll get a lot simpler, right? Your pet's going to get a little bit tankier. You're going to get more HP. There's just going to be more leeway, and with that leeway, it's going to get so much easier. I mentioned at the start that I don't think BM is the best option when it comes to doing this. I've tried it as the other 2 hunter specs. The plus side of BM is you can move away from the boss, and so Massacre is going to be a lot easier, right? It's really easy to see when they're spawning, where they're spawning, and to go from there. But the downside is your pet's going to die and you're going to die. I tried it as survival. Honestly, it was night and day. Like survival, I was never worried about my health. You have your mastery, which gives you 6% damage reduction. You have leech from your pet passive. Honestly, survival, the only hard part about the fight is seeing the massacres. As I was progging, it got to the point where like 80% of my wipes were because I couldn't keep my pet alive. I wasn't dying to Massacre anymore. I wasn't dying to the Monty game during the intermission, and I wasn't dying to daggers very frequently. It's all just about pet management. I used a ferocity pet. You can use a tenacity pet. I don't think it's going to be a big difference between the two, right? A little bit more pet health versus a little bit more pet leech. I went with the ferocity angle. I don't think it's make or break, no matter which one you choose. A couple of things that I want to say that are just general tips before we're done with the video. When it comes to your graphics settings, there are certain things that can help out a lot. If you have anti-aliasing on, make sure that you turn that off. If it's on, it's really hard for some people to see the red lines for the massacre dashes before they happen. And then another thing that a guildie mentioned to me, and I tried it, it did help. It just kind of hurt my eyes, was you can turn the gamma up. And if you turn the gamma up, it's going to make it a lot easier to see the blue animation when the massacres are first spawning. And so if you're having a lot of trouble keeping track of the massacres as they're happening, try turning your gamma up just to like 1.3 or 1.4 or so. All right. I hope that was helpful to everybody watching. It was really fun. It was incredibly hard. But, you know, for the first week, I think it was great. You know, Mythic Zeros were done. There was not much else to do, and I got to slam my head into this, get frustrated a little bit as I watched my pet die for, you know, a couple hours on end. But it was a good time. If you guys haven't tried it yet, I would definitely recommend it. And if you're not the type that likes a challenge in the first weeks, for sure wait until you have 4 set. It's going to make this a lot easier. All right, thanks for watching.